Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release. I saw the TV Glow, and I heard a lot of great things about this film. And like most times when I hear big hype, I went in with tempered expectations because I was like, people usually overhype this stuff, and I don't want to go in too hyped up and then be like, oh well, that wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. But this was a time when the film really exceeded my expectations, and I have to say, this is an amazing film. Really wasn't expecting that. It is such an emotional, impactful movie that I think is one that everyone should see. And it's not just people who are into horror, because yes, it kind of is horror, but it's not hardcore horror. It's kind of like horror elements to it for the most part. It's a lot of things though. It's a big mixture, but I obviously highly recommend this film. At the moment when I'm doing this video, it is my favorite horror film of the year. Actually, probably my favorite movie of the year that I've seen. Period. Actually, no, it definitely is. Wow. Yeah, not a whole lot. There aren't a whole lot of films that I get so invested in and on an emotional and intellectual level, and the metaphor in this is wonderful. So I do just need to tell people up front, this is a no spoiler review, but when I get to the very end, I will let you know before I go into it. But I'm going to talk about kind of the subtext in the film, the themes, the metaphor, all that stuff, and that stuff is spoilery. So just so you know. So anyway, let's start talking about I Saw the TV Glow. Written and directed by Jane Schoenbrun, who did Big Brother Volcano and We're All Going to the World's Fair. I did see We're All Going to the World's Fair, and I wasn't a big fan of it. Like, I liked aspects of it. Actually, I have a review for it on my channel. You can look that up. But I did like aspects of it, but overall, I didn't really like it because it had really big pacing issues. Now, this film actually is very much slow, but it doesn't feel super slow because it is so engaging, and they build such great they build such great atmosphere. This is a PG-13 film, by the way. Blown away that it's a PG-13 film and it has the impact that it does with still having a horror aspect to it. Think a very grown-up version of something like Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark, or I'm sorry, Are You Afraid of the Dark is what I was looking for. The Nickelodeon show Are You Afraid of the Dark, or something like Goosebumps, but very adult and very metaphorical and very emotional. I actually rented this through Fandango at home for $6.35 with tax. So yeah, very cheap, very well worth the rental there. And synopsis of it, real quick. It's primarily about one main character who is kind of an outsider. Doesn't feels kind of like aimless in life. Doesn't feel like he fully connects with people around him. Is a very awkward individual and ends up finding friendship with a person who is involved with watching this TV show called The Pink Opaque, which is a very 90s show. They actually made a fake version of the show to have in the film, which they did a great job. It feels very 90s and very like Nickelodeon 90s, appropriately so. But it's it's about that individual kind of connecting with this person and kind of like the shared experience of getting yourself buried in a show like that and the connection it can form. And there's more to it past that, but I'll talk about that in the end portion about the metaphors and subtext and everything like that. So that's what I'm going to leave you as far as leave you with as far as synopsis goes. But I obviously highly recommend the film. I love the vibrant colors used in this film, and actually my color scheme that I've been using for my videos is very appropriate for this movie because you will find these types of colors in the film. Very vibrant. That's something that We're All Going to the World's Fair had in it here and there, and they do it in a very much more like big, high budget, artistic way in this film, and it works really well. It's very visually appealing. Also, the direction by Schoenbrun is wonderful. The cinematography is outstanding. Shot framing is beautiful. It just lets the scenes breathe and you just can get lost in it. And the score just adds so much to the film, and it strikes this very important melancholy feeling. I actually made a note that says the music is used great, used to great effect, and often strikes a real melancholy feel. The funny thing is, I wrote that note down before I found out that in the film, in the fake show that they have on there, the Pink Opaque, there's a character called Mr. Melancholy, and I was like, perfect, there it is. So love the vibrant colors, love the score. The dialogue and characters feel very real, and they really end up sucking you in. You early on feel very close to the characters in this film, especially the main character, and their performances are extremely subdued. And I think that that is a intentional choice by the director, by Schoenbrun, which I think was a brilliant choice. I think it worked to great effect. That's something that can be kind of risky for films, but the feel of this film is kind of slow, muted, melancholy, and to have more restrained performances matches that and works very, very well. It also goes very well with kind of the thematic stuff going on in the film, and who these characters are really supposed to be. So, kind of a ballsy move ish, but really pays off. Really, really, really worked well. Schoenbrun does a great job making this feel firmly placed in the 90s, especially with the fake TV shows that are made, like I was talking about before. I mean, I grew up partially in the 90s. During the movie, there's a point where they're like, oh, this is happening in 1996. And I was like, I was in 8th grade at that point. So I was like, yeah, I mean, it tracks for a lot of the stuff I kind of knew for that time, so I think it helped with for me like connecting with this film. So yeah, worked quite well in that sense. The score is not overused, which I really appreciate. There are stints of no score whatsoever, which I'm a gigantic fan of in films. I think it allows people to kind of sit with their thoughts and sit with the experience of the film without being grabbed by the hand and led in any certain direction. And I feel like in that sense, it can start to become more personal for you. Instead of being told what to feel at that point and what you should be hearing, you're listening to the sound design. You're focusing more on the characters, kind of their speech patterns and the silence between them at times. And it just works so well. And I wish more filmmakers would have the courage to drop the score out more often, because there's so much power in that and there's so much impact that you can build through doing that. And I'm just glad that Schoenbrun understands that. I love the shot selection and the framing of this film. It feels like it just lets a lot of scenes breathe. I kind of already talked about the whole breathing thing, but it looks phenomenal. Love, love, love the camera work in this. The actors' performances are pretty subdued, which helps with a great disconnected melancholy feel. Yeah, in addition to the whole subdued and the atmosphere of it all, the disconnected melancholy feel is matched by the performances. So again, smart. There are some very freaky and effective scenes, I will say that. Disturbing, but obviously PG-13 disturbing. Oh, and I don't think I even said this is an A24 film. And when you watch it, you will understand why this is an A24 film. It feels very much like an A24 film, and I'm a huge fan. I love, love, love those types of films, especially like the A24 horror section. Usually very good films. This fits right in there with a slew of other amazing films they've done. There are some pretty masterful and impactful monologues in this film. I've always wanted to be the person who can write very amazing, impactful, insightful dialogue or monologues within a script. I've written some scripts in my time. Nothing's really been made except for like short film stuff, but I've always wanted to be that person. And I feel like watching this film, I was just like, I wish I could do that. Like that's what I've always wanted to be able to do, is what Schoenbrun is putting to the page and then to the screen. Phenomenal with the writing. It has a very powerful ending. This film has a very, very, very powerful ending, if you're willing to open yourself up to it and fully experience what the filmmaker's trying to get through to you. So that said, I will go ahead and give you my rating right now, and then I'm going to talk about the thematic stuff and subtext and everything. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, it's not a perfect film, but I'm giving it a very, very, very good 4.5-star rating. I barely ever give that out. I like almost never give out 5s. I also almost never give out 4.5s. Usually it's 4 for like the really good films, but this it deserves that 4.5. It is an outstanding film. So that said, if you don't want to know about the thematic stuff that is spoilery, go ahead and drop off now, and I'm gonna get into it. This film is about struggling with who you are in a world you feel disconnected from, and how you connect to things like shows and movies, depending on where you are in your life and what you're experiencing at that time. That is a powerful message, and Schoenbrun did such an outstanding job bringing that to life in the film, but not making it too in your face. Like, you had to work a little bit to kind of pull the stuff out. Love it. It's also about figuring out what your reality is when you're torn between two existences. And you'll understand what I'm talking about if you've seen the film. This is a film that's not specifically directed at me or who I am, but it's one of those films where you get it, or at least I get it, and in ways I can apply it to myself. So it does feel personal in the way that I've kind of filtered it through my own brain. And finally, it's about the choice you make to be yourself or live the life everyone else says you should, and how that leads to happiness or despair. I think we all kind of end up in situations like that within our lives, where we have to make a choice of, are we going to do what people are telling us to do, or are we going to do what, you know, truly we're feeling inside that we need to do with ourselves. Just an example, these are small examples, but a small example for me is, when my wife and I got together, when we finally got married, a lot of questions about, when are you having children? When are you having children? Well, we didn't want to have children. And it's hard to keep telling people, especially family members, no, you're never going to have a child, especially when they keep hounding you about it and they keep saying, I really wish you would. And they try to appeal to you to make you feel like you're cheating them somehow by not choosing to have children. But my wife and I made that decision, and we decided that's not something that we want in life, and we're going to be true to ourselves. And it's not easy, because you do get judged for stuff like that. But this film is not specifically about that. I was just giving an example. But it is a film that keeps making you think, and it brings up those types of emotions and feelings, and makes you get a little introspective. And that's why I love this film so much. It's not just masterfully done. It's the feel of it, the emotion of it, and what it does to you after you're finished watching it. So, outstanding work, Schoenbrun. I mean, can't wait to see what else this individual does. So, everyone, thank you so much. Please put some comments down there if you want to talk about this film, if you've seen it or if you haven't. And then thumbs up on this video if you like it. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also appreciate that. And you can hit the notification bell button to know when I'm putting up new videos. But sorry for the rambling in this. There was a little bit of that. But yeah, I mean, passionate about this movie, and I didn't expect it. It's a wonderful one. Anyway, everyone, thank you very much. Keep it brutal.